Hi guys, Theo here. Yeah, it's been a while since my last video, but I think now we've got the perfect excuse to basically open this keyboard because I noticed there was a slight issue that I had with one of the notes again. So basically, let me just get this stuff plugged in, switched on. So basically, what's happening, all the notes are working, but if you notice, it works, but if you give it a certain amount of pressure, then it only goes on. So I'm going to be opening it up to look at that, and then I also would like to check the soldering on this. I know in the previous video I said I'd get a soldering iron to basically check the joints there on these knobs that I have. So yeah, I don't think I'll have the proper soldering iron yet. I got myself one by Chinatown, but yeah, I don't think I'll risk it yet with that. I just want to see what the connection looks like when I look at that. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I've turned the keyboard around. How I normally position it is, I just make sure most of the support is on the plastic part of this what do you call this thing now again, yeah, so I just make sure it's on the plastic portion there, and then in between the black notes I have a slight gap there, so it's not full pressure onto that note there. So I've got a slight gap, and then it's obviously just got a little bit of pressure on that one note there. So yeah, let's open up this bottom section. So what we'll do is we'll just loosen all these screws around here, around the edge. We don't have to loosen this here because this is just a cover for the expansion cards in here. So yeah, all those screws around, and then these in the middle here will also loosen. So let's go into that. Okay, so I've managed to get all the screws out. One thing just to note, the screw on the further left on the one side with the thinner portion here has a slightly longer screw. So that's just one thing that I picked up the first time initially when I opened the board. And then yeah, let's see, I hope the quality is not too bad. So what I did is I slid it slightly forward. So you just need some sort of grip here at the back. Okay, now you just slide it to the front, basically towards the keys, and then it will come off. Okay, so this is what the board looks like inside. So this is all that they normally do is when they check your keyboard or they clean this board. So I'm assuming either one of these screws are a bit too tight or too loose, which causes that note to be, it doesn't always take basically, so it's on a certain amount of pressure the sound actually gets triggered, so or the note gets triggered. So I will check or see where that note lines up, and then I'll just adjust like these screws or check it and see if it's a bit too tight, or yeah, I'll check that rubber thingy that sits at the bottom. But yeah, let's get into that. Okay, so what I've done so far was I just plugged the keyboard in at the back, with it being open, and identified the note that's giving me an issue. So as you can see, it's this note here, which is basically sitting on the border of this board. So you see it's two halves. So this is the section I need to look at. I'll just try and tweak these screws first, just to see if that makes a difference. I think by touching it I've already made some sort of difference. So yeah, let me just tweak that. Okay, what I've noticed so far is the board is still plugged in. If I apply pressure to the board about there, it becomes better, but it's still not perfect. So I think I might be pressing a little bit harder, and it seems even better now. So, and I did notice the top screw that sits in there was a bit loose. So, yeah, I think it's probably not getting enough pressure to this board here. But what I want to do is I'd like to, just for interest sake, I want to remove this board and then just check if everything aligns properly to those little rubber triggers that sit at the bottom. So I will switch the board off, and then I'll look at what it looks like on that side. So yeah, I left it plugged in. I'm just going to remove these screws here, and then lift this half up and see how it aligns there. I don't have to take this out, it's fine. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so as we can see, the screws are out. So now all that we do is we lift it slowly and just tilt it a bit forward so that it comes out of those tabs in the front there. So that's basically how it slides out. And as you see here, these are the rubber points I was referring to. So this is my note. So it's the one on the last end, which would be this one here. It doesn't seem to be anything on there. It seems to be firmly in place. So okay, I think it's just a matter of tightening it down. And I think that's the best I'm going to get to resolving that issue. But I mean, before, when I had the notes in the previous video where I told you guys that the notes were not working, all I did was this whole section here, I brushed off all the dust that sat on here, and I took out some of these stuff and I cleaned out all the dust sitting in here. So that's basically all I did, and it worked perfectly fine after that. So yeah, let's get this thing tied up much better and see how that goes. Okay, so now I've just tightened up these screws and I've switched the board back on. So now, just for sanity, let's go through every note. So I'm working from the bottom now. So let's just see if we get something. So that one that's on the stand, it's a bit tricky to get to. That's the note we had an issue with earlier. You can already notice there's a big difference. It it's soft as a change and it still triggers. So that's much better. Okay, we haven't fiddled with anything that side, so that side should be fine. Okay, so I think we've resolved that. So now the next one is I need to just check the soldering of those knobs, which is gonna sit. I think it would be on the side of the board. Let me just see. Yes. So I would need to remove this board here. I'd have to remove, and then I should have a view of what it looks like under for those knobs. Yeah, if there's anything funny, I'll take the board out and I'll rather have it sent away to have them check like the joints and stuff like that, but that's only if I can't see anything. So yeah, let's look at that. Okay, so I've just unplugged the board. So just a side note, when removing these strips, what I try and do is I try and put my fingers as close to this little holder where it slides into, and then I pull from there, because you'll see there's like a blue tab that sits on here, which basically holds it securely in there. So I rather pull the cable with that instead of pulling just on the cable, because sometimes those things come loose, and once that is off, you'll find it hard to get in here, or you'll have to push both in at the same time to give it some sort of firmness in that slots. So I'll just show you. I put my hand as close to the bottom and I just yank on it. So basically when I pulled it with that blue piece, as you can see there. And I'll do the same with this one. So that's out. So that's out, and let's go to the next one. This one's a bit harder to get in there. Right, so all of this is loose. Just need to remove these ones. So now all we need to do is we need to loosen these screws, these bronze or goldish screws, and then there will be a few that sits in the front of the panel here that you need to loosen. Then this should just slide out, and then we've got a view on the bottom board. So let's do that. Okay, so as we can see, I've taken out all the screws and the ones that sat in the front here. So now this board should just lift up, and then we pull it slightly and then it should come out. Right, so that's what the board looks like. Now I need to locate where those knobs sit. I would assume it's these bigger joints, which is the 4, and then it has a input volume, and then it has another one which is the main volume, which is here. So I'm assuming it's those contacts. So I'm gonna look at that. I don't know if you guys can see the quality from this camera, but I'll look into it with a torch, and then I'll give you guys feedback in a little bit. Okay guys, so after scrutinizing this thing, I think I might have found something. So let me just see if the camera is going to be able to see it. So if you notice, this is the first knob, And to me, I see something that doesn't look nice here at the bottom, as you can see there on the board and there. So I think that is my issue, because if I look at all the other welds around those knobs, they look perfectly fine. But yeah, I'm not a qualified electrician, or yeah, so I can't really say based off the soldering that it's perfect, but that's the only thing that looks a bit like, which could be a connection fault there. As you can see there, it looks like there's a portion that actually cracked underneath there, so which means it won't make proper contact to that portion. So I'm gonna just take some sort of needle and check if that is basically loose or what is the story there, and maybe try and solder that with my Chinatown soldering iron. So yeah, I think that's something that I can basically see that could be an issue. So yeah, I'll get into that and keep you guys posted if that resolved the issue. So okay, I'll get into that quickly. Okay, so this has actually confirmed my suspicion, because as you can see here, if I take the needle and just gently push it in there, you can see the part of the board actually lifts. So that tells me there's definitely something not happy there. So yeah, I'm not too sure if me soldering this is going to make any difference, because it seems that the soldering here is not making contact to the actual board itself, and I don't know if there's a break. As you can see, there's a slight crack there, so I don't know if I could just have the solder run over that portion, if that would make a difference as well. So I'll try that and let's see. Okay, so guys, I tried my best to solder that portion there with the soldering iron and soldering wire that I have. Doesn't seem to be working 100%. So yeah, so definitely the problem is not resolved yet, but I think what I'll do with this is I will remove this board, take it away to a professional place, and let them just resolder those points, or check all these points with their tools. I think that would be probably the cheapest way to get this resolved. So I'm going to dismantle this whole board and take that to my local electronic store or something. And then yeah, once I get that back, I'll give you guys feedback. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. Hopefully in the next couple of days I can get this back, and then we'll see if that resolves the issue. But these four is definitely the knobs, which is the issue. So yeah, hopefully we can get that to work, and then we're good to go. Cheers guys. Guys, now she's all back together and everything seems to be working 100%. So yeah, I'm happy. As you can see, if we look at the mix, I can now basically adjust all these volumes perfectly. So yeah. So guys, you guys saw how easy that was to fix, especially the key bed for notes that are not working. I hope this video helps anyone who has a board like this. Yeah, if you feel comfortable, do not send it away and do it yourself if you are able to do so. So yeah guys, I'm happy. See you guys in the next one. Thanks.